there, everyone. Welcome to Women Who Boss Up. I am really excited today to have you here with us. We will be talking about managing stress because I know there's a lot of people out here that are dealing with stress, especially now it's in a really stressful time. So I have today some of the most amazing women who I have had the pleasure of meeting within the last few months. And we will be talking a bit about some of the things that we have experience with stress and anxiety, and then also answering some of the questions that you have. So first of all, I'd like to welcome Kimberly Laska, who is the CEO and founder of A Heart Speaks. Hi, Kimberly.
Hello and good morning.
And Yamilka Rodriguez, who is the CEO and founder of Architect Method. Hey, Yamilka.
Hello, how are you?
And Lauren D'Angelo, who's the CEO and founder of Lola Yoga.
Hi.
Hey, Lauren. And then also Dr. Sarah Silva, who is the CEO and founder, PhD of Accepting Therapy. Hey, Dr. Sarah.
Hi, welcome.
All right, you guys. So I know we all have dealt with stress in our life. And I'm just going to kind of go round robin and have you share some of the things that you have experienced in your life around stress and how you've handled it. So Kimberly, what about you?
Wow, how do I handle it? Lots of wine. No, I'm just kidding. I think handling stress is an ongoing process because I honestly believe that none of us have arrived yet. And so learning more about me and how I take in stress or how I filter certain things is something that I have continued to grow in. And so handling stress is learning about myself first. And we're going to talk about some of those things today, right?
Yes. I think I agree with you because it really does have to do with handling yourself. Yamilka, what do you think?
The beginning of my stress was really when I was in college and I had to get critiqued on all my designs by my friends. And so that was kind of where stress started to bubble up. I know I've had stress prior to that, but that's when I really noticed it. And when I started working in the corporate world, it was stressful every day with projects and things you had to manage and all that. And I noticed it in my body. Like I noticed that like I was short of breath. It was just everything kind of was bigger than it really was. And I think that's when I started to want to learn more about it. Like Kimberly said, like I wanted to understand how I could manage it. And that's where the beginning of yoga and Ayurveda kind of started for me to kind of be able to manage that stress.
Yeah, it's interesting because I have always been one of those kind of people who didn't really recognize stress. Like I didn't recognize that I was being stressed out unless it was way too much stress. Like it was way past the indicators. Exactly. And so I have a tendency to hold it, stuff it, and push it in. What's happened though, as I've gotten older, is it starts to show up in a lot of different areas. With the aches and the pains, and I'm so aware that stress probably causes cancers and all kinds of other things for the same reason.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how about long?
Yeah. So, I think one of the things that we've all said already is that we all know stress is going to happen, and taking a look at it from a little bit more of like the scientific research side of it. So I think Tam, you already just said it, but it's scientifically proven that there is a response physically that happens when your body is stressed out, right? So cortisol levels increase, you hold tension in your body, your brain moves from, rest and digest into a constant fight or flight mode. And there's actually fight flight or freeze, right? So there's actually 3 different modes where it can be. And so one of the things that we all have to learn how to do is what happens, how do we react when we come against this resistance and this stress and tension? It's going to happen. It's part of life. Where do we hold it in our body? How does our brain act? And then how do we move ourselves through it so that we can continue down our path? So I think it's just understanding what the tools are in your toolbox that you have, which every single person has, that they can tap into when they need it.
Yeah, I think that's really, really good. I think a lot of us, we just need some tools, and it's a continuous thing. We have to really, and this goes back to, to working on ourselves, really taking care of ourselves, paying attention to ourselves, that kind of thing. So I love that. I love that. Dr. Sarah, I'm going to call you Sarah from now on. I'm so excited to have you because we have been talking a lot about mental health, and I think that people right now are so stressed out with what's going on, and they don't know how to handle it. And we've never had this kind of stress. We never had a pandemic like that, at least in the century that we know of. So I would love for you to talk about that. I know you work with a lot of that. So first of all, welcome though.
Thank you. I love everything that everyone has said so far. And I think the other 2 things that I'll add is, one is really identifying what stress is. Stress is something that is subjective, is something that really just means that we feel internally like we can't control whatever situation we're in, right? And so the thing about stress, the way I like to talk about it is, like, look at this glass of water, right? This is stress. And so if I hold on to it for a minute or 2, it's really not that bad, right? But the longer I hold on to it, the longer I hold on to stress, the longer the more weight it has on me, the more intense it feels, right? And so imagine like holding on to this cup of water for days or weeks or months, right?
Yes.
My arm might fall off, right? And so while that sounds really funny, that's how we handle stress, right? And so when we don't deal with it, when we stuff it in, we all have this threshold of what we can take in terms of stress. And so it's important to do something about it, right? And then in terms of my own experience in getting my degree in counseling, they really encourage it and sort of like, in a way, force you to learn more about yourself. Because if I don't know about myself and how I respond to stress, then I really can't be there as a support for somebody else. And so that whole idea of learning about yourself and how you respond to stress is so important. And I think it's an everyday thing. There's always stressors that come our way, right? And especially with the pandemic, right? It's every day is up and down, and it's okay that some days are good and some days are not so good. It's just a matter of being aware of that and paying attention to your body and responding accordingly.
I'm going to keep you on the hot seat really quick because there's been such a stigma around mental health. And a lot of times we don't want to talk about mental health. We don't want to deal with mental health. And now we're like linking stress and anxiety with mental health. And people don't really want to just take care of themselves and know that it's okay to be experiencing these things. So, what are you really seeing around mental health, and how can we get the stigma off of it?
That's a great question, and I think one that a lot of people have asked for years. The reason why we have so much stigma around mental health is it's a lot of cultural differences, a lot of religious differences, and also the history of our profession. We didn't used to treat people humanely. We used to lock people up in asylums and things like that. And over time, and I think also the media has perceived what we really do, and so that's a part of it. But what's important is And I think in addition to that, I think that the mental health profession as a whole has done a poor job of educating the general public. A lot of times we see conferences and stuff like that, but it's all geared towards mental health providers. And that's something that I actually want to change. Is my focus is really on global mental health awareness and recovery, and really educating the general public about mental health, because a lot of times people don't understand mental health unless they go to counseling, or they know somebody who has gone to counseling, or they have done their own reading themselves. And so I think it's our job as a counseling and mental health profession to educate the general public. It's not something that we learn in school, right? About our feelings and things like that. And if you were fortunate to have parents or caregivers or people around you that told you about depression and anxiety and things like that, then you're more well equipped. But for people that have been told all their lives to hide their feelings, that crying is seen as a weakness and all of those things, right? Over time, that's just what we know. We don't know any different. And so it's not our fault. And that's important to remember. And it's just a matter of, how do I become aware of myself and then move forward with that? I would say that we're a lot more liberal in certain areas of the world with seeking mental health services, but it's still, I think, a problem, and it's still something that needs to be addressed. One simple way of addressing it is by talking about it. Talk with strangers about it. Talk with your friends and your family about it. Having those small conversations about it, and making it more normal.
I love that. I appreciate you saying that. So I'm going to jump into another round robin, because I got a chance to know Kimberly Loska. I think we met each other maybe 3 months ago or so. And oh my gosh, the first time I talked to her, I was so just amazed by her. But then when I started to hear her story, I was just flabbergasted about some of the things you have endured just in your lifetime with stress. So, and you've come out on the other side with smiles and helping people, and your job, your business now is really helping a lot of people in life coaching and stuff like that. So I'm excited for you to kind of tackle some of these questions we have, just from your perspective and life knowledge, being able to offer some opinions. So Kim, I know you have a question that some of our community has asked.
I do, and I'm excited to jump in with it. And this is from Misty Elaine Morgan. She's asking how to set personal boundaries for ourselves. And I think as women, that is huge. So I'm happy to answer this. But she's talking about, so that this ratio of 80% work and 20% family, or anything in between. And she's saying how she struggles with that, and that self-care is crucial and families are, important, but there's just not enough hours in the day. Girlfriend, lean in, okay? Because I have to say, if you don't value yourself, no one else is either. So there's your 2 cents right there. You have to place value on yourself. And what does that look like? That looks like, I need to understand that I have worth, that I have value, and that I have a purpose. And so it all starts right with this balance in our life. How can I create it? Because the good news is you're in full control, because you do have choices. Sometimes when we're crammed into whatever role, vocation, or your stay-at-home mom or whatever, which is more work than anything, but you have all this giving out. There comes a time where you have to set a boundary for yourself. You have to breathe, and we're going to get into some of that yumminess later, but actually finding that place of placing value upon yourself. So that is what I would lend to you, Misty. I think that's very important. And what does that look like practically? Because I'm a practical girl. So that means get out a pencil, get out a piece of paper, and start writing the things that you value in yourself. We're so good at making the list of what we're not, but there's something about making a list of what we are. So it's about finding those places of affirmations and really breathing in goodness, because what you focus on becomes the biggest thing in your life. So if my goal and what I'm focusing on is placing worth upon myself and creating more balance, you know, when we see it on paper, there's something that happens. There's this transformation that is empowering to us, that we can look at it and go, you know what? I do have a choice. I can step back and let somebody else do a little bit more so that I can do a little bit more for myself. So that I would lend that to her.
Oh, girl, I love that. You know what? You always can count on Kimberly for a good old fashioned girl talk. I love it. Yamilka, what you got?
I have a question from Karen Mead. And the question is, what are some practical and healthy ways to deal with stress? So super easy, just two things: sleep and breathe. That's what I would say. So I know that through my, I went to Chopra University, Deepak Chopra, and I learned tons of things from there. But one of the things I did learn is that it's so critical to sleep from 10 to 2, because it releases the free radicals that we have been producing through stress, right? And sometimes we forget that. So if we're able to turn off all our electronics either 2 hours or an hour before 10 o'clock, because that light comes in through our eyes and it really kind of gives it that second wind that we talk about. And so shutting all that down and going to bed at 10 and letting that body kind of regenerate itself. I mean, we lose weight. We do so many things when we sleep, and it's so critical. And from 2 to 6 is when you're detoxing. Your body's actually detoxing. So I would say that sleep is one of the most important things. And then the second thing is breathing, doing breath work. And I think Lauren's going to get into that a little bit more. But, you know, a simple thing to do is just counting your breath, like taking a deep breath and count in and count it out without thinking about anything else. And I think if you can do those two things that are super simple, I think you'll see the difference really quickly in your body, on your mind, in your energy, and all those other places where you really need it to kind of take on the day.
So good. Oh my goodness. As you were talking, I was sitting here breathing in, holding it, breathing it out. You know, it just makes such a big difference. Lauren, tell me what you got.
Yeah. So we have a question from Tracy Brown, who asked, what are some of the signs of stress? Meaning, what are some of the ways that stress can play out in our lives? And I actually like kind of the bucket of water or the glass of water, right? And so our tolerance level is potentially half full, and then it seems like the smallest things are adding drips to this bucket that eventually starts to overflow. And that's when it can show up in different ways, right? So our behavior can change, our tolerance level for maybe some of the smallest things that normally wouldn't bother us all of a sudden become these really large things. It can show up in ways with sickness. You know, I remember there was a time in my life when I was working through stress. It was just studies in school, and I was constantly getting sinus infections, right? So, constantly. It was just the way that my body was showing and giving me signs of stress. And so you can also have muscle aches, body aches, obviously sleep, right? Sleep can become an issue where you're not able to fall asleep. So there's so many different ways, but I would probably say that the number one way that I hear, or that I even feel, is like this agitation or this kind of like itchiness physically in your body where you just can't seem to settle. And so some of the things that I did want to offer up were just tools, right? And so 3 deep breaths, again, going back to the science, Three deep breaths just in and out have actually scientifically proven to calm your central nervous system down. So all along your spine, right? I call it the super highway of signals to the brain, your central nervous system. If you take 3 deep breaths, all of a sudden the signals to your brain start to slow down, and you can think more clearly, and you're able to kind of like come back down physically into your body, right? So when you're able to land yourself back in your body, it's almost kind of like you're cleaning the foggy mirror, or you're dumping out some of the water in that bucket that's full. And then the other thing that I would offer up is doing this body scan, where you're starting to really notice what is it that shows up for you when you find that you are in stress or in distress, right? So I had a student who would tell me that the bottoms of his feet would start to get like really clenched and tense. That's how he noticed that he was feeling stress. Many of my students, or many students that have come into my classroom, have said that their jaw, they have TMJ, they're clenching their jaw in their sleep. That's how stress shows up for them. And so if we can start to identify what it is in our body physically that we feel, we can also, again, allow ourselves to tell ourselves, relax your jaw, relax the bottoms of your feet. You know, and then I do also want to go back to what it was that Kimberly said. It's this idea of self-care, right? So filling up your cup and allowing yourself time so that you have more capacity and room for others. When we find that we're in agitation and we're constantly agitated, anything that's coming at us or happening, it's not perceived the way that it's supposed to be perceived, right? Like life is happening for us, not to us. And so when we're able to shift that perception and that thought, we're better able to receive.
So good. Oh my goodness. So good. And I love how everything kind of marries together. You know, you can take something from everyone's share and understand how and find what fits for you. You know, you say, oh yeah, I'm going to take on that breathing. I'm going to take on getting to bed by 10 o'clock. All these are really good, practical things. And believe me, all of us are women and humans, and we've all been through stress, and we had to learn some of these techniques the hard way. The hard way.
Yeah.
Sarah, tell me what you got.
All right, so we've got a question from Marif. Hold on one second. From Marif Mendez, who asks, is it possible to quit anti-anxiety medications? So I'm going to preface this by saying that I am not a medical doctor, and so I would encourage you to speak with your medical provider with those questions, because I cannot legally share that information. However, I have worked with a lot of people in counseling who have taken anti-anxiety medications, and I think it's important to note that the anti-anxiety medications or any other psychotropic medications are there to assist and to guide versus being the cure. And so it's not going to do all the work for you. It's going to help do the work. It's going to make it a little bit easier, but you still have some responsibility in terms of seeing a therapist, doing that breath work, right? Taking care of yourself, really paying attention to yourself, because when we just rely solely on the medication to assist us, we're already in trouble. It's kind of like, you know, going to the gym one day a week and assuming that you're going to lose weight or gain muscle just by going once a week, right? We really have to be adamant and active in our mental health care in order to move forward. However, do I think that you can quit it? Yes, absolutely. Talk to your medical provider. What usually happens is it is in conjunction with your therapist a lot of the times. It's usually recommended to have both versus just doing the medication, because therapy can really be helpful. And then if both parties see that it's a good time, that, you know, you're doing well and you're able to cope, and, you know, I haven't really needed the anti-anxiety medications. I'm still taking it because my doctor says, but that might be a good time to start to what they call like tapering off or weaning you off the medications. And that's a process that is done with your doctor that can be done over like 3-month period, 6-month period, 1 month, a 1 year period, depending on how much of a dosage you're on. But yeah, that's exactly what I would say, and what I say to most of my clients who ask that question.
So good. I think that that's a great tip. Talk to your doctor, right? See if there's a possibility. Pay attention to yourself. Very good tips. So now we're going to go around one more time, and we have so many more questions. So I'm not sure if we'll be able to get to any more questions, but I want to ask all of you ladies, what are some of the things you do for yourself? Some self-care things, some things that you like to do, and you can tell a couple of things that you like to do or what you've done in the past. And I want to start with Kimberly. What's some things that you like to do to?
Well, scent is very important to me, whether that be food or candles or oils. It is something that brings me to a place of absolute serenity. And I'm not making that a, weirdo statement. The bottom line is this. You need to feed yourself in all different forms. And it does go back to the self-care, right? And we are talking about stress versus peace here, right? So how do I go from the 0 to 50? I think Lauren brought that up, the fight, flight, freeze, or
Rest and digest.
yes. And so it's like, okay, how do I manage that? And again, get to know who you are. What's going to work for you may not necessarily work for me.
Yeah.
Right? So again, get to know yourself. For me, I love citrus. Okay, so I have my essential oils diffused, and it's in the house, and I love to put it on my body. I love the smell of flowers. It just brings me to this place of absolute peace. And I think it's important that we find a soft place to land, and that's a soft place to land for me. That's hugely important. And I mean, we all have memories of a certain scent, whether that be mom, making that spaghetti sauce or pot roast, or, a certain smell of a flower. And those are called anchors in our brain. And it triggers things for us that drum up wonderful things. So if the smell of garlic makes you want to vomit, here's an idea. Don't smell garlic, okay? Do something different. Something that's gonna feed you and make you feel good, because somebody told me this a long time ago, and it's the statement, it goes like this: no one is coming, okay? Nobody is coming. So that means that I have to be in charge of what is going to feed myself, nurture myself, care for myself, cast a vision for myself. So start setting off some candles, girl, and get some wonderful essential oils and cook up some pasta.
Girl, I love that. No one is coming. Maybe a Thanksgiving candle is what I need.
That's all good. Some pumpkin pie.
Right.
Yummy.
Yamilka, what about you?
Yeah, for me, it's really about creating the ritual. And so what I do is I sit down at my meditation table with all my goddesses that I've put on there. I light my Palo Santo, and I kind of go around the circle, and I go around myself. And then I put this aromatherapy oil, which is kind of what Kimberly was talking about. And I kind of smooth it in my hands and really focus on kind of my third eye, which is my intuition, and kind of ask that comes through during the day. So if something problematic or some question I'm not sure how to answer, I really ask that my intuition kind of come forward and answer that for me. And so I kind of do all that, and then I sit down for about 10 or 15 minutes to really just breathe and soak in the experience. And it's come at this point right now, I can't live without it. Like, it's just, I need it every day. I love that ritual. It only takes about 15 to 20 minutes, and it just really sets the day. And I really enjoy the time doing that, and intriguing the senses is what I call it. you know, the different pieces of it and the settling in and the quietness. Yeah. And so, yeah, so that's the one for me.
I love that. Having a morning ritual is so key. And you found something that works for you, gets you started, makes you feel good. I love that. Lauren, what about you?
So I'm going to give two, but they're kind of related. Getting outside. I have to really find time each and every day, really no matter what the elements are, to get out in nature. You know, there again, scientific research, there's a lot of scientific research about the negative ions that trees give off and nature gives off, that when you actually physically are out in nature absorbing those negative ions, what it does for your brain and for your physical body. And so, you know, I like to make sure that I feel the sun on my shoulders, or maybe it's seeing the leaves as they kind of sway in the breeze, or maybe it's feeling just my feet on grass for a few moments. It's awakening all of those senses, spending time out in nature. And then once I get back inside, it's a practice of gratitude, right? So writing down the experience of, based on being outside in nature, what was it that I was grateful for? And by grateful, it's, yes, of course, you're grateful for the whole experience, but like what really stuck out today, and writing that down so that you can get clear and start the day with just this one thing that you know you can carry throughout your day that you're grateful for already, right? So it's really getting out in nature and spending time out in the elements. And I'm a big believer that getting back to our roots of where we're all from and how we're all connected is so important.
Yes, I so agree. I have to walk outside every single day, every day, because if I don't, after a few days, I notice. I feel
Me
terrible.
too.
Yeah, really yucky, right?
Yeah.
And Sarah, how about you?
I have a lot of things that I do, but I'll mention a couple of them now. So I like to journal. I'm big on journaling and gratitude stuff, for sure. I also love to be outside. So hiking is something that I really enjoy. Swimming, just being out in the sun is always things that I enjoy. I also really like to dance. So not anything particular, but just throwing on some music and dancing, even if it's for like 2 minutes, like that really gets me into a really, yeah, exactly. It gets me into a positive space. And I really like to watch, as corny as this sounds, I really like to watch the sunrise or the sunset. There's something that's really magical about that experience. And so that's a time for me to meditate and to appreciate all of the beauty in the world.
I love it. I love it. Sarah's going to be busting out break dancing and we're going to all be like,
No.
You know, I want to add one little thing. So I love to walk every single day. That's something I do. But also, I love K-dramas. It's my guilty pleasure. So I'm not sure if you guys watch K-dramas or any kind of craziness like that. But it's a total addiction. But it's my brain turn off thing. It's just something to turn my brain off from working, which I actually enjoy working, but I have to turn it off. And so I like doing that. Well, ladies, you guys have been such a pleasure. And this has been Women Who Boss Up, talking to some amazing women about ways they manage stress. Stay tuned for some of our other episodes that are coming up soon. And also we'll list some ways that you can manage your stress, some different resources that you can look into at the end of this episode. And we look forward to seeing you again. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Hello, ladies. Sometimes relaxation looks like that. But honestly, using your body, using your motion, getting out on this beautiful water, that's serenity. And that's what it takes. We have to get back to treating ourselves, slowing ourselves down, and looking at the beauty that's all around us.
Slowing yourself down and letting someone else grow.
You heard it right. Peace.
Hi, so I'm currently in a sauna. I just finished my workout today. I did some weight training, chest, shoulders, and arms, and I also did some cardio on the elliptical. I really enjoy pushing my physical limits in addition to pushing my mental limits, and so that's why I really enjoy the weight training aspects. And then after I'm done with that, I really enjoy relaxing, stretching, and meditating in the sauna. And so that's where I'm currently at, and I'll be here for about 15-20 minutes, and then I'll go on about my day. I hope that you can do something good for yourself today to fill your cup back up, and so you can take over the world and spread love to others. Take care and have a beautiful day.